So Greg, you took on the challenge of reassessing and streamlining its risk assessment and audit planning process. Before we get into the details, my first question, why? What prompted this?
Yeah, it's a good question, Doug. I guess if we look back, about 3 years ago, Nationwide is subject to the Federal Reserve Board oversight, and the Federal Reserve Board is very prescriptive in their demands for our department in terms of risk assessments and their expectations. So we took upon ourselves just to look at our process and knowing that what we used to do several years ago in terms of length of time and level of depth just wasn't going to be enough to satisfy the Federal Reserve Board. But I think even more importantly, not just for the regulators, but what we need as an enterprise to really put our time and effort at the right risk within the company.
What have been your stakeholders' response to this? How transparent have you been with your stakeholders in doing this? Obviously, if you're working with your risk partners, they have a certain level of transparency with what you're doing. But what has been the response of the stakeholders, the audit committee, executive management?
I think the audit committee has been very supportive of understanding the complexities facing our organization and our times of change and a number of initiatives we have going on. It's unparalleled in our history. So I think their view of spending time with management and being proactive to that has been very helpful. I think of two areas within our operations. We had our senior leaders come talk to my team back. We had training back in the month of May, and two comments stuck out. One of our leaders said to our team, "I need you to be proactively reactive. So be looking for what's the next thing that can go wrong and bite us, and be ready to move on it when you see it." So that was sort of point one. Another stakeholder said, "Just help us keep ourselves out of trouble." There's an awful lot going on. We have a lot of people moving around the organization. Again, the marketplace moves, and just try to ask that question to make sure it's getting asked, to make sure that it's not just assume that somebody else is doing something. I think it's just the way I think we can be the best partners, and then spend time with management about areas where they shouldn't lose focus. If you're not thinking about it, it may be the thing you need to think about, and trying to say that in the right way that's not offensive and intrusive. And they'll always know more about the business than we will, but we also know an awful lot about risk and helping folks manage risk through controls, and that's a role that we embellish in the organization.
Do you have any words of wisdom to a fellow CAE who's embarking on any kind of major process change or direction change in our group?
I spent a lot of time asking, and I probably spent in the first 3 or 4 months of my new role listening 2/3 of the time and only maybe speaking 1/3 of the time. And took a lot of notes and really step back and also look at us relative to the marketplace and our competitors. And there's a lot of great ideas out there. I think some of the bigger obstacles have been within our own team. People get accustomed to doing processes the same way. And I did speak about consistent, repeatable processes, but you have to be willing to change your process and not underestimating the change curve. So taking time, the teams have to step through the process change, and we do risk assessments, the big process, once a year. So you don't have the opportunity to do it again and again and again. It takes some time to get its way through it. But I think understanding that and then communicating back out, lessons learned. So I think it's important to have your team understand, for any audit leader, why you want to make a change. Especially now we have a multi-generational workforce. Folks want to ask the why, just not go forth and do. And I think taking the time to help answer those questions gets people behind it, gets them embraced in what you're trying to change, and actually they'll probably think about a lot of things I didn't think of and our leadership didn't think of in the process too.